The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to The John Lebang Show.
Greetings, Earthlings, to the 350th episode of The John Lebang Show. Thank you for joining me. It's been an amazing journey. When we got back from our summer break, we already were hitting milestones because we were beginning our 9th year doing this broadcast. And we've come up against another milestone here at the 350th episode. So I want to thank everybody who's been with us from the very beginning, all the new listeners, the affiliate stations that are dedicated to keeping the John Lebang Show airing throughout the globe. And with all this time that has passed by, I realized this is, wow, 350 hours of broadcast. That doesn't include all the specials and the Banger Music Hour, but 350 episodes. And we're glad you've been a part of all that. We've covered practically everything known to man on this broadcast, and that's one of the reasons why you join us every week here. And it feels quite humbling as a person who didn't really have the education or the background into radio. I mean, when I was young, I was always the entertainer. I chose the musician route over anything else, but you can see in some of my earliest pictures, I've got a microphone in my hand and I'm all dressed up in a suit and I'm ready to go. We started way back on YouTube, as many of you know, because you've been with us from the very beginning. You know, you have dreams, right, when you do this. You have dreams of making it big, and then you start realizing that just like being a musician, that road is hard as heck. And there are a great deal of roadblocks. And if you don't kiss the right derrieres, if you don't talk to the right people, if you don't brown nose enough, you're never going to go anywhere. But we've done this on our own with really no budget. We've pieced together this show throughout the years. We've made this amazing studio that many of our peers would wish to have. And we've done it all on a shoestring budget, and we've done it with dedication and dignity and a passion to get things right, to open the eyes of people who may not have their eyes open. We also, throughout the years, have done those comedy bits in the music hour. And as I reflect on the many, many years of doing this, I realize that we've only gotten better at what we've been doing. We've only begun to scratch the surface of what this show could potentially become. And you say, well, how can you say that when you've been around 9 years? This show is constantly evolving and developing. And although we get our fair share of hate mail, every once in a while we get something really nice sent to us. And that makes it all worth it. So thank you again for being a part of Whether it's 1, 2, 50, all of the broadcasts. And I'd have to say it'd be very difficult for anybody but myself to be involved with every broadcast, to have tuned in everything. And that's why we offer an archive page on our website. You can go to that website, www.jlebang.com, and please, I'm indulging myself a little. A lot of you want me to get straight into the big news of the week, and we'll get there eventually. We've got another rendition of Days of Our Lives where we're going to have sound bites from Jim Jordan. Project Veritas had a very interesting video this week that we'll be discussing. We've got some sound bites of Donald Trump talking about Medicare. He had the St. Louis Blues, winners of the Stanley Cup, at the White House. We've got bites on that. We also have bites from Glenn Beck and Rand Paul. And later on, you'll get a little bit of the Democrat debate. So much fun. It was so much fun. But for now, in this first segment, I wanted to just think about and talk about and discuss my feelings about being a part of not only the radio industry, even in my small little corner that I am, because I don't think I'm some big shot. There's a lot of shows out there on my level who actually think they're something special. You know, they're better than the rest of us. But I was wondering, what should I discuss on this 350th episode? Because a lot of you come for the news. A lot of you come for the comedy bits. A lot of you come for just plain entertainment and enlightenment. The 350 episodes that we've produced. We've done some really great shows, and even like the last hour, we were a little over zippy, we'll say. But when you're doing this all the time, and when you got to produce a product, even though you may not be in the mood to do so, because it's not easy to just sit here in front of the microphone and to talk about things that you're going to get hated on or that people don't know about, and come up with interesting content each and every hour. Because people can be really fickle. And the way we present things at times can rub people the wrong way. We know it. Sometimes we want to make you feel uncomfortable. We want you to examine yourself and the surroundings. And sometimes that results in people turning us off for a little while. But then they always seem to come back. We just recently did a video. It's actually about the first segment of the show last hour. And we had a person we hadn't seen comment from in a long time. It was on our YouTube channel. And I'm like, well, see? Sometimes people go away and then they come back. And it's hard to judge where you're at sometimes without seeing actual numbers, without getting the feedback from the listeners. To see if you're resonating with people, if they're understanding what you're trying to put across. That happens in everyday life. But it seems to be a little more scrutinized when you're here on the radio. And we're not allowed to make the mistakes that, the average person's allowed to make, because this stuff is permanent. Once it gets out into the world, it ain't ever going away. So sometimes you got to watch what you say. Sometimes you got to hold back, because it may be crossing a line a little bit, maybe even pushing some people's buttons on purpose. But we do our best here, ladies and gentlemen, and we appreciate everybody who has been a part of this broadcast, between the interviews, sending in their ideas, because we've got some of those ideas. In fact, we had one that I had made a post on Facebook asking people, what do you guys want me to talk about on my 350th episode? And you get the smart Alex out there, the wonderful smart Alex, who think they're just going to be funny. And since we like to have a little fun ourselves, I thought we'd discuss this little comment real quick while we have a few minutes before break, and it kind of relates to the 350th broadcast. But I asked on the Facebook page there, what would you like me to cover tomorrow morning, which is today? And one of the guys out there, this gentleman who is in a band that we interviewed, named Sleazy Vegetable Joe. So if you're listening, bro, big shout out to you. He wants me to talk about his shift at work. Well, I don't know what you do for work, but judging by your name, you're sleazy. I don't know what kind of vegetable you are. But is it like the Sleazy Vegetable Joe? Is that like a vegetable coffee of some sort? Because Joe's coffee, right? Joe's a coffee. That's slang for coffee. But what kind of vegetable would go with coffee? I was thinking celery. No, that's a Bloody Mary. Can't do that. Peas and green beans, I just don't see them going well with coffee. But what is a sleazy vegetable? So I had to think about that for a moment. What is a sleazy vegetable? Spinach isn't sleazy. It can be slimy if it's sat around too long, but it's never sleazy. Can't count tomatoes. Cucumbers aren't sleazy, although some people I know use them in sleazy ways and use them in ways that wasn't, nature's intent on the cucumber. Zucchinis aren't sleazy. So, in the chat room, ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to let us know what you think is the most sleaziest of all vegetables. And then we're going to make a coffee out of it just for Mr. Sleazy Vegetable Joe, who made a comment and wanted me to talk about his shift at work, which maybe he makes sleazy coffee. Sleazy vegetable coffee. We don't know. He didn't tell us. We have to assume. So, Sleazy Vegetable Joe, if you're listening, please tell us what the heck you do for work and why is it so sleazy. Anyways, folks, we got to take our first break. When we get back, we'll get into the real meat of the broadcast. So please stay tuned right here on the 350th episode of The John Lebang Show. Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back. Does your house need a paint job, but you don't want to do it? Then call Tom at Quality One Painting. He can handle all of your interior and exterior painting needs. He gives free estimates and senior discounts. Call Tom at Quality One. 313-982-2986. That's 313-982-2986. Quality One Painting. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an Eye-Raider convention.
Last time on Poker Face.
Groovy, do you see my shoe?
I was out of spoon, so I started with your shoe. Hope you didn't mind. Here you go.
Here's the chips, Uncle Shady. Oh, I love chips. These are chips? What's in here? Let's see. No trans fats. Well, that's good. I'm not into them trannies. Oh, somebody's at the door. Well, don't just stand there. Go let them in. Hello? That's some crazy clown over at the party store. You want to come in? Hell yeah, I want to come in here, man. That's what I'm here for. I'll get it.
Hey, what's up?
Nothing until you get here.
Well, that's a problem. I have to do some crime fighting, so I'm not going to be able to make it.
Goodbye. Looks like we're going to be one show.
Oh, we can always invite John.
I think you've had enough of that jungle juice.
iDork, initiate Banger Hollow program.
Acknowledged. Activating hologram emitters.
Oh, look at that. All right, let me go to the bathroom and then we can get started.
Poker Face. Chapter 2. Deal Me In.
That's a load off my mind.
Hi, Dork, bring me a soda.
I'll take a beer.
Is that all?
On second thought, bring me 2.
I'll take a little shot of something.
What would you like?
Just bring me a shot of everything. I'll tell you which one I like after.
Anyone else?
Bring me a Romulan ale. I'll take a pitcher.
Roger Dodger?
I hear that stuff's illegal.
One of the advantages of being a scientist, I can make my own.
And what would you like?
Oh, nothing. My hookah is all I need. Geek, I think something's wrong with your hollow dick of junk.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's moving its lips, but it ain't saying anything.
Oh, jeez. I forgot to engage the audio. I had it turned off. Dork. Disengage audio bypass.
Oh, can anybody hear me? Yes, we can hear you, and I liked it better the other way. I'd like a tea, Earl Grey hot.
I'm not wasting a bag of tea on a hologram.
What'd she call me? I wasn't listening. Now, can we get the game started? I'm about to become a rich man.
Did you buy a lottery ticket or something, man? Because you can't be talking about playing cards tonight. I'm going to take your money, your shirt, and your hat.
Let me stop you before you get into thinking about my drawers. We ain't playing strip poker. This is a man's game, which means you'll be losing money. Oh, I hope I win. I want to go on a trip to some tropical island, sit on the beach, and catch a tan. Listen here. The only thing you're going to catch on a tropical island is a disease.
What kind of disease, Uncle Shady?
How do I know, Leroy? Do I look like some kind of expert? Now, are we going to play or what? So, who deals?
Typically, it's the first ace dealt.
Well, Geek, do the honors.
Oh, okay.
Haha, I get the deal. Great job, Geek. Hollow Dummy goes first.
Oh, well, it was the luck of the draw.
Here's your drink, fellas.
Now, why'd you grab me, Gaywiser? You know that brings me bad luck.
If you wanted something different, you should have specified.
Might as well give everybody my money now and go watch a Godzilla movie.
Sexbooks is replaying Godzilla vs. Batman tonight, Uncle Shady. We can put it on while we're playing.
That's a good idea, Leroy. Sometimes you amaze me.
Well, the Dead Wings are playing. Thought we'd put that on.
Listen, Goober, we're here to play cards, not to watch TV. Now turn on Godzilla, Leroy.
Okay, Uncle Shady.
Would anyone like to partake in my hookah?
No way, I'll pass. Last time I smoked a hookah, I met up with this girl, Virginia Vagina. She was one of them, what you call them, gold digger. That's it. She came from San Francisco, man.
Oh, one of them 49ers.
That's right, man. And since I like the 49 as much as anyone, I got all up into that.
How about you?
Oh, don't mind if I do.
What's the ante? Oh, how about the penny? I brought lots of them. Listen here. If we're going to do this, let's make it worth my time.
What about a nickel?
I was thinking a little higher than that.
A dime sounds good to me.
Now, how am I supposed to save up for retirement when I'm playing with a bunch of cheapos?
Let's make it a quarter.
Fine, a quarter it is.
Oh, here you go.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, I think them cards have been shuffled long enough. How about you deal them?
Poker Face. To be continued. We now return you to your regularly scheduled program, already in progress.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show. It's like a party all the time.
It appears that the entire GOP, outside of Donald Trump and Rand Paul, are upset that Turkey is pushing their way into Syria and we're doing nothing about it. Now, I'd like to take a look at this from a layman's point of view, if I may, because I have 10 points, questions, thoughts about this Turkey, Syria, us backing or moving our troops. First of all, to all the people who voted for Trump but now are upset that we're trying to get out of the conflict in Syria, Trump made a campaign promise to do that very thing. So I wouldn't get too upset about it if I were a Republican. He told you he was going to put his efforts towards getting us out of these endless wars. And this is just another step in that. Our second point here is we should have never intervened in Syria in the first place. We can blame Barack Hussein Obama for that, John McCain for that. Hell, we could probably even see that Hillary Clinton had a little to do with that as well. And because we weren't supposed to be there, because one, Syria is not our ally, two, we shouldn't be invading countries, even if it is to kill bad guys, who we, and John McCain, elicit their aid in fighting the ISIS and the Assad regime. Remember a few years back I did that video about the whole area and how all the alliances were convoluted because allies were helping enemies of their allies and vice versa. We didn't know what side anybody was on because it was just a jumbled mess out there. My third point, Russia is Syria's ally. And Syria has asked the Russian military to help them against the insurgency inside their country, which consisted of rebel or terrorist groups, freedom fighters, depending on which side of the argument they were on. They were either good guy, a bad guy, or a group that needed to be dealt with. Number 4, Turkey is not really an ally. Even though they are an ally through NATO, they really aren't an ally of the U.S. any longer. And that's been a growing trend over, maybe the past 10 years or so. It is definitely during the Obama administration when the alliances with Turkey were starting to slip. And they haven't gotten any better since. And just by coincidence, even though we moved troops out of the way, Turkey, quote unquote, accidentally fired at our troops. About 1,000 of them. And now those 1,000 are a little cut off. And hopefully we can get them out of there without him being caught in the middle of all this. Because they're already being fired at from Turkey, even though it was an accident. But do you believe that's an accident? It's hard to believe that. Another question or comment I have on the situation is there's at least 50 tactical nukes inside of Turkey. The Incirlik, I think is how they pronounce the air base in Turkey. That was our air base, and we have no less than 50 tactical nukes in there. And now we're having trouble with Turkey. And how are we going to get those nukes out of there? Because I have a feeling the NATO alliances aren't going to last much longer. And the conflict that is in the Middle East is going to expand. On top of the conflict that most likely is coming with China. Even though we've done that trade deal, you never know how those things work out, especially the way they're handling Hong Kong. Another point I'd like to make about the Turkey, Syria, U.S., the whole thing out there is, where is the United Nations peacekeeping forces? Or don't they have any if the U.S. doesn't send them? You see, we're beginning to see that the United Nations is an inept, at least they're inept, if not something much more sinister. Without the aid of the United States to enforce their will on the world, they have no power. They are a useless organization. And we are seeing that with the conflict in the Middle East. and on the U.S. border, where they've done absolutely nothing at all to help the United States in the crisis of all these illegal immigrants, refugees, whatever it might be. They've been silent, useless. Now, as another point on this subject, why isn't NATO doing something about Turkey? Why aren't they imposing some rules saying, Turkey, you can't do this. We don't want you invading other countries. But since Turkey has seen the U.S. do it, Russia do it, it looks like China's about to do it in Hong Kong. Well, it's a little hypocritical of the major superpowers to tell little old Turkey what to do and what not to do with their with their advancements in their military. Because it's been pretty regular that the superpowers, U.S. included, have decided that they are the policemen of the world, and they will, in what they call national interest, will do whatever they deem necessary. And if it means toppling governments, very much like the Iraqi government, or what attempted to transpire in Egypt, what happened in Libya, what they attempted to do in Syria, Turkey's saying, well, if you can do it, why can't I? We're just trying to kill what we perceive as the bad guys in all this. Another point here, which begs the question, because you hear a lot of Republicans and talking heads pointing out the fact that us leaving will endanger the region because ISIS forces might be able to regroup. Well, from what I can tell, there's not a whole lot of ISIS forces left, and they don't own any territory per se. The ideology may be still there, but between the efforts of Donald Trump and the U.S., plus Russia, let's not forget Russia's involvement in taking out ISIS, we've pretty much cleaned up that problem. So when we hear the talking heads on the Republican side, the neocons, worried about ISIS, and they may escape that prison, like I said in last hour, we should have executed them all. Then we wouldn't have this worry that ISIS forces might recongeal somewhere because they escaped a prison. And that's why I have the 9th point. Why didn't we execute all those ISIS that we had captured? What's wrong with that? These people were going to murder us. So instead of housing them, paying for them to be in prison, paying for their food, their clothing, or whatever, one way or another, somebody was doing that. We should have just executed them. That would make that much of that ideology, or that much less of that ideology in the world. And it would also teach those buggers a lesson that you don't get to live if you're one of those jihadist terrorists willing to impose a religious caliphate. I should say impose a religious caliphate on the rest of the world. And the biggest question in all of this is, why is it our problem in the first place? Syria was already having problems. NATO was messing with them. U.S. didn't need to involve themselves inside Syria, but we did, thanks to Barack Hussein Obama. The man who won the Nobel Peace Prize, for doing absolutely nothing. And then as soon as he wins that Peace Prize, he goes out and starts toppling governments. Now we have a couple sound bites on this. One from Glenn Beck, and let's play that for you.
Our troops to be withdrawn from Syria. And I'm really torn on this because these guys we were in bed with, they were corrupt from the beginning. When John McCain went over with Hillary Clinton, with Barack Obama's blessings to embrace these people, I ranted every night. These are not good people. We should not be over and inserting ourselves in with these people especially. This is not going to work out well. Now the president pulls people out and we have this mess on our hand, but I don't know how else to get out of there other than just to get out of there.
He had Rand Paul on the show, and let's hear what Rand had to say.
Well, people need to remember the beginning of the Syrian war, and for years and years, it was Lindsey Graham and Hillary Clinton, both on the same side, both supporting Sunni extremists against Assad. Now, Assad is no angel, but most of the Christians in the country actually sided with Assad and had been a minority religion protected by Assad's government for decades. But the Sunni extremists that we supported, or our government supported, Hillary Clinton and Lindsey Graham, if those people had taken over, my fear is that their ideology would have been closer to the ISIS caliphate than it would have been to anything the West has known. But it's a very complicated situation. Turkey is misbehaving in the region, buying Russian missiles, etc. They are an authoritarian government and a NATO ally.
Now, I had no idea Kentucky was in Syria, folks, but apparently the mainstream malpractice media did it again, and they moved Kentucky and a gun range to Syria and claimed that gun range footage from Kentucky was Kurdish forces being attacked by Turkish military. We're going to take a quick time out. We'll be right back with more on this episode of The John Lebang Show. Don't move a muscle.
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes! Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
Last week on The Days of Our Lives,
I think the only thing consistent about the whole discussion of people threatening Ukrainian aid is that everybody seems to be doing it on both sides.
Oh, I'm going to buy the Stanley Cup here. Hi, you get 25. When you get $30,000, having a 30, 35, 40, 45, 45, 45.
Do you think the people at CNN thought that Trump was going to win the election?
Nobody thought Trump was going to win, myself included.
Well, I think two things stuck out. The first is it sounds like he's just upset that he got caught in this ridiculous arrangement. And then second, he said that something about when his dad becomes president. I don't think that's going to happen.
These guys we were in bed with, they were corrupt from the beginning.
You see these people on the other side. These people are crazy, by the way. They're totally crazy.
So Project Veritas released another video. This one is going to be a multiple-part video about CNN and their corruption, how their owner hates Donald Trump. He has a personal vendetta against him. But there is plenty of other juicy tidbits that the Republicans and the mainstream media seem to be overlooking. And I'll tell you why. But let's hear our first clip.
Morning, everybody. Okay, let's start with Washington, please. I don't care about the other stuff in the event. Okay, I don't care about them. Let's just stay very focused on impeachment.
So as we see, the owner doesn't like Trump, and that's all he wants his news network to focus on is impeachment and Trump. But I want you to get a hold of this clip because this is very revealing. Take a listen.
But to a certain extent, CNN created Trump's celebrity, like created this whole, like, not his celebrity, but created his candidacy, made him legitimate because they felt like they needed to show everything that he did from the beginning. So, like, Jeff Zucker can't really complain. Like, he kind of put this into action.
Yeah, why would they do that, though, truly? I don't get it.
Ratings.
Now, isn't that what the Bangers said a few shows ago? That the mainstream malpractice media have built Trump up to be this mega, bigger than life superstar. Not only is he bigger than the presidency, but he is a cult of personality. And it was the mainstream malpractice media that made that all happen. It is almost like it was planned from the very beginning that they were going to build this guy up. What better guy to build up? Who else would love all that attention but the Donald? And he seems to be taking all of that in stride. So you start wondering, you start theory crafting as a individual, and it sure looks like it's all coordinated to make Trump the focus of everything. Yeah. In fact, that you could say, by a certain point of view, that all this negative press has only been good for Trump. And here we had the owner of CNN telling his people he wants them to only focus on Trump and the impeachment. And people who work inside CNN can't figure out why they're giving Donald Trump so much attention. And I'd like to bring up to the floor the fact that there are only 6 real media companies, and all the information that they disseminate is just regurgitated by all your local journalists and news agencies. Not because those are seriously corrupted. All you need is a few people running things, telling people what they need to talk about, what they need to focus on. And in this case, CNN and their colluders in the mainstream malpractice media have built Trump up so large, so big, that you got to wonder if it's all part of the plan. And people will get confused. They're going to say, well, of course it was the plan. They have to oppose the Trump at all costs. And I have to say, are you sure about that? You see, Donald Trump was a Democrat at one time. And he does things from time to time that make you wonder if he is on board. And it wouldn't be too far of a stretch that the rulers of the world would just offer us somebody who we thought was our champion. He was on our side. But all along, he was just another mechanism in controlled opposition. Something to think about. You see, his popularity was created by his opposition. Trump was big, but they've made him one of the largest names in the history of America, if not the world. Trump is going to go down in history one way or the other. And it's the mainstream malpractice media that has provided him the platform to do that. Now, the Trump supporters are going to hate that, what I just said, but I'm sorry, folks. I'm not here to be a Trump supporter. I'm here to comment on what I see. And unfortunately, there are times where I think that Donald is only there to keep the real opposition in check so that the New World Order's agenda continues to move forward. But who knows? We also had the debate, the Democrat debate. And we've got sound bites from that.
In my judgment, Trump is the most corrupt president in the history of this country.
Costs will go up for the wealthy. They will go up for big corporations, and for middle-class families, they will go down. I will not sign a bill into law that does not lower costs for middle-class families.
At least Bernie's being honest here and saying how he's going to pay for this and that taxes are going to go up. And I'm sorry, Elizabeth, but you have not said that. And I'm tired of hearing, whenever I say these things, oh, it's Republican talking points. You are making Republican talking points right now in this room by coming out for a plan that's going to do that.
Senator Warren is more focused on being punitive or pitting some part of the country against the other.
Here's Biden trying to deflect the story about his son at the debate.
Look, my son did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. My son's statement speaks for itself. My son made a judgment. I'm proud of the judgment he made. I'm proud of what he had to say.
You've got Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, all these people up there. And then you got heart attack man, Bernie Sanders. He somehow, even though he had just had the heart attack, got the strength to be at the debate. And I'm surprised anybody would give him any credibility at this point. One, he's just too old. And it looks like he's too fragile and too angry to be the president. But because he has a lot of supporters and some of the things that he's been talking about, I thought we'd bring it up. Because Bernie plans would put half of the U.S. on the government payroll. Did you know that? Some studies have said it's a staggering $97.5 trillion in new spending over the next decade. That's what Bernie wants. 10 years, 97 plus trillion dollars. Government only takes in $4 trillion a year right now. So there's only one way that Bernie can accomplish his policy goals, and that is to tax the living crap out of everybody. Now, he says this proposal would create job guarantee federalizing 45 million other people, more than tripling the current rate of government employees. The $97.5 trillion price tag includes Medicare for all, which all the Democrats seem to be pushing a health care plan. And didn't we just get one from the Democrats called the Affordable Care Act that is completely failing? People want to forget that up on that stage. They had their crack at health care, and behind closed doors, they got us the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare for short, and it's been nothing but disastrous for the medical field ever since. But hey, let's run on health care again, because we have no other subjects that we can talk about. Now, Bernie Sanders, as well as the cost of his health plans, he wants to give free tuition and forgiveness for student loans. He also has a plan to combat global warming, although the most recent data suggests we're heading towards a cooling period. You see, by the time the political class gets around to talking about what's happening in the environment, it's already changing. They're not ahead of the game. They're just going with the flow. It got warm there because of an interglacial period of a ice age that you're probably not aware of, but you can go down to the Museum of Natural History, and it tells you right there in a big old sign, and we'll make it available on our Facebook page if you'd like. We're still in a ice age, it says. We're only experiencing a little warmer temperatures because we're in an interglacial period. Yes. But Bernie Sanders is going to have Medicare for all, forgive all student loans, free tuition for students because they deserve it. And he's got a plan to combat that elusive, that evil global warming. He also wants to expand Social Security. He has a public housing scheme because Bernie wants to be a super. I want to be a super. It's the best thing. Now, I'm for his infrastructure idea, but that's nothing new. The president discussed that during his campaign, and we've seen not a whole lot has gone into that as well. And, of course, he wants to expand public education because we already spend in the top 5 per student in the world, if not the most per student in the world. Yet we get results that puts us in the teens and the 20s in all the major categories. But sure, Bernie, go ahead and expand education because that's going to help. Put more money into a problem because money never solved it in the first place. He also wanted to put 16 million private sector healthcare workers under a nationalized Medicare for all. And of course, in this soundbite, Bernie says billionaires who are going to get taxed to death shouldn't exist.
When you have 500,000 Americans sleeping out on the street today, when you have 87 million people uninsured or underinsured, when you got hundreds of thousands of kids who cannot afford to go to college and millions struggling with the oppressive burden of student debt, and then you also have 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. That is a moral and economic outrage. And the truth is, we cannot afford to continue this level of income and wealth inequality, and we cannot afford a billionaire class whose greed and corruption has been at war with the working families of this country for 45 years.
And with that being said, we're going to take a quick time out, folks. 4th segment heading your way. Please stay tuned. Smoke them if you got them.
Because the John Lebang Show will be right back
after this.
That's guaranteed. Yes.
At Absolute Skin and Body Care, they only use the best laser equipment in the industry so that you receive the best results possible. They'll explain all the procedures in detail and answer all of your questions. Absolute Skin and Body Care. If you're looking for skin rejuvenation, laser lipo, or laser hair removal, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Their office phone numbers are 248-305-3000. That's 248-305-3000. Absolute Skin and Body Care.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show. It's huge. Now I gotta tweet about it. First baby could be born in space within 12 years. A startup company claims that it is planning to send women on a 24 to 36 hour mission so they can give birth in orbit. Spaceborne United is a startup that researches conditions for humans' reproduction in space and is focused on assisted reproductive technology. So, ladies, if you want to have your baby in space, maybe be the first child ever to be born in space, why don't you contact the startup company Spaceborne United? They want 30 participants, while the main guy over at this company thought all this was possible. He was not planning for it. Gotta love the mainstream media. The company's work is focusing on embryo development and space conception. Asked about the 12-year estimate, Dr. Edelbrock said it would depend on funding and developments in the space tourism sector. During a study conducted by NASA in 1997, pregnant rats were observed during readaptation to 1G force and labor and delivery in space. Now, ladies, I want you to hear this. If you're thinking about doing this, found that the rats experienced around twice the number of labor contractions as controls on Earth. So you go ahead there, ladies, and you subject yourself to flying up in space while you're pregnant, just about ready to give birth. Go up there in space, give birth, deal with twice as many contractions as you would on Earth, and then fly you and the baby back to Earth. In a companion story of sorts, former NASA scientist says they found life on Mars in the 1970s. They're telling us that there was possible life on Mars. But we have a companion story to that, ladies and gentlemen. Water found for the first time on potential habitable planet.
Fake news.
That's the headline, folks.
Fake news.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Fake news.
We found water on a planet that's habitable.
Fake news.
But wait till we get into the story here. The malpractice media tells you K2-18b is 111 light years, or about 650 million miles from Earth. Too far to send a probe to this supposed inhabitable planet that has water on it. So we haven't been there. 111 light years away. 65 million miles. I'm sorry, 650 million miles. Always have to correct ourselves if we make that mistake. Never been to the planet, only have taken pictures from afar, and you get grainy footage through the satellites. They're actually hoping that they'll have a better chance at seeing more of this with their next generation of space telescopes that'll be launched in the 2020s, because they can't see that much. Yet, the headline from the malpractice media says,
fake news.
Water found for first time on potential habitable planet.
Fake news.
Now, if you've been listening to the John Lebang Show for years, you know that we have, according to news reports, the malpractice media have found water on planets before, or suspected water. Since they can't reach those planets to verify those reports, it's all fake news. That's right. Malpractice media gives you a headline, water found for first time on potential habitable planet, and they know that the average dummy is going to go out there and regurgitate that information. We found water on a planet. It's way out there. They don't even know how far it is because they didn't take the time to read the story, which would have told them 111 light years away is impossible to get to. We could never determine if there was water on that planet. We can only make an educated guess by what the pictures show. But that doesn't mean that those pictures are accurate. Yet, the malpractice media, instead of saying, hey, there's a planet out there with potential water. No. Water found for first time on potential habitable planet. Which means it might not be habitable at all. We don't know. There's a potential there. But since it's 650 million miles away, no one in their lifetime is ever going to be able to go there and prove it right or wrong. And why does this make the news? Well, you tell me, ladies and gentlemen. I already know. But if you don't know, it's because they need to fill space. So they come up with these concocted stories with fake headlines and then sprinkle in the actual truth in there. 65 million miles away. Sounds like a song to me, doesn't it? 65 million miles away. There's a planet with water 65 million miles away. There's a planet with water. We can't even make the commute to know if that is even true, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in some local news, General Motors and the United Auto Workers were nearing a deal to end a 30-day strike. And you'd see the reports where the reporter was standing outside the picket lines. The picketers were marching back and forth, going in a circle. But you see them and they're all well overweight. It looked like they didn't want to be picketing. They were getting tired of walking around. I'm not on anybody's side here. I'm not on the company side, and I'm not on the worker side. In fact, I'm on the side of the person who's going to be buying the car and going to have to be paying more for a car because the auto workers who are as fat as can be, they're living it up as auto workers. They're not happy with their contract. It's time to get a new one, and they want more, always want more. Maybe they want to gain more weight. Maybe they want to get fatter. That way it can help the healthcare system get fatter because since they're not taking care of their bodies, since they're not taking care of themselves because they have too much money and too many benefits to worry about that, well, just ask for more stuff so the company is going to have to raise prices on the consumer to pay for you auto workers who are living it up. Living it up. And yes, the higher-ups at GM are also living it up. Maybe you should get together to try to lower the price of cars so that the average consumer doesn't go into incredible debt for a vehicle. But it looked like it was hard to walk. Let's see, one more. We got a couple more stories, but we're really up against the clock here, folks, so I guess we'll have to save them for next hour. Thank you for joining me for this 350th episode of the John Lebang Show. I'd like to thank all of our affiliate stations for carrying the show. Don't forget, if you've missed any portion of this broadcast, maybe you want to check out the archives because this is the first time you've come across the John Lebang Show, please go to our website, www.jlebang.com. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, I'm John Lebang, thanking you so much, and we'll see you next time, right here from the Banger Studios.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Same time, same space, same station.